Hey guys, Pete here. This will be my Westworld Season 3, Episode 7 preview/trailer breakdown. Episode 6 was a pretty good one, probably my favorite of the season so far, and it was strange that there was a lot in that trailer that didn't end up being in that episode. We'll talk about that in a bit, but first, your spoiler warning. This video will contain spoilers for everything that's happened in Westworld through the 6th episode of Season 3. I'll also be speculating on future events, so if you're not caught up or if you want to go in cold, then now's the time to leave. Episode 7 is titled Passed Pawn. It's a chess reference. I don't play, so my knowledge of this only goes as far as reading the wiki page. Basically, a passed pawn is a situation where the pawn, which is generally the weakest piece, can gain a lot of strength in the end game. If you can move it past your opponent's defenses, it can be promoted on the other end of the board. So it goes from being a weak piece to any piece you want it to be, usually a queen. One of the things I liked about episode 6, besides the Man in Black therapy session, was that they gave an explanation for why Maeve would go against Dolores, or at least appear to be going against her. From the early trailers, they've been hinting at the showdown, and we've had this shot of Maeve approaching with the katana, but it was difficult to understand why Maeve might fight for Serac. Now we know she really doesn't have a choice in the matter, and that Dolores has taken all of this into account when making her plans. Maeve's body has been rebuilt, and we last saw her waiting for another host body to finish printing at the Delos Headquarters. This is most likely Clementine, since we know that she's one of those hosts that were being printed. People have been collecting shots of host IDs when they come up, and Clementine's matches one of the ones we saw in this shot. So Maeve is coming out, and she's got some old friends with her. Bernard and Stubbs are with the Man in Black, or should I say the Man in White. Dolores just lost the family she was taking to, and Serac and Insight have taken over Delos. Things are starting to take shape, and they should be. There are only 2 episodes left in the season, and quite possibly in the series. Let's look at the trailer scene by scene, and then I'll talk about where I think things are headed. The trailer opens with a shot of a satellite in orbit. We see it open up and something falls from it, and this is probably a kinetic weapon. It could be a missile, since as of right now, kinetic bombardment is hypothetical, but it's something that could very well exist in the future when Westworld takes place. When I first saw this, I thought about Serac making the comment about retasking all the corporate satellites to the park in the last episode. I was thinking we could be seeing the beginning of the end for Westworld and the other parks. That still could be the case, but there's something that happens later in this trailer that probably makes more sense. In voiceover, we hear an unknown woman, probably Caleb's therapist, saying, "Start at the beginning." Then we see a shot of him running through some brush. It looks like this is from his time in the military, and we'll see some more of that as we go. Next, we see Caleb with longer hair taking a limbic tab, wearing civilian clothes. In this shot, he looks like he's in a city setting, likely back at home rather than out in the field. And that's followed by a close-up of him taking a tab in a similar shot, but it could be happening somewhere else. Like it's just showing that he was taking these things for a while. That cuts to him in full combat gear taking a tab. We can see his uniform has his last name on it, and he's in the US Army. We hear him say, "I'm having a hard time remembering." And then we see his friend Francis smiling in his army uniform. We see that they're together and Caleb is smiling too. He flips his gun's magazine in the air and catches it. The next shot looks like it's him being blown back by an explosion or some kind of impact. We see leaves in the air as he falls back out of the frame. That cuts to what looks like a military command center. We see a man in a uniform with a headset on from behind, and in the voiceover we hear Nichols, Caleb. I think it's this guy saying it, but the voiceover in this trailer is a little difficult to track. There's an out-of-focus map on a large display in front of him, and if I had to guess, I would say it's a city he's looking at. You can't really make anything out though. Next, there's a shot of Caleb with a shaved head in civilian clothes walking away from a city. It's not clear where this is. It looks like it could be in the Middle East, maybe by the architecture. What's really interesting about this sequence is that if you watch it frame by frame, you see a projectile comes down behind him. And just before the cut, you see the impact. This is probably related to that satellite from the beginning, but as mentioned, it could be Serac destroying the parks. That cuts to a shot of him in his military gear. He's looking through the scope of a rifle. He's next to a vehicle using it as a shield, and then we see him take a shot. The shot of Caleb firing the rifle cuts to someone getting shot. Later in the trailer, we'll realize that this is him shooting this guy. Based on what we can see in the background, this guy's getting shot in the US. We can see American flags, and the classic Corvette next to him looks like it has a Wyoming license plate. He's wearing tactical gear, and he's well armed, and it looks like he's the last man standing. We see other guys in similar clothes laying around on the ground where they're already shot. And when we see it in the longer shot, it looks like the building could be a bank, and this could be a robbery that's gone wrong, but that doesn't really make sense of why the military would be there. But there's also this celebration going on outside of this building, so it's hard to say why Caleb is picking people off in his military gear in this shot. That cuts to a shot of Caleb and probably Francis. It's in silhouette, so you can't tell, but I don't know who else he would be with. They're leading a hooded prisoner, and we can see that the guy has zip-tie cuffs on. After that, we see them in a military medical area. Caleb is sitting in a chair. He leans forward, and we can see that he has a gunshot flesh wound on his head. I'm guessing this is what he was referring to in episode 1 when he was talking to the Rico courier. He mentioned that he had been shot in the head before. We see them in an urban setting walking up a set of stairs. They're wearing masks and they're pulling out their guns. In the voiceover, we hear Bernard say outliers, and as they approach this building, we can see the name. It's the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and that is in Los Angeles. So they're on American soil, and it doesn't seem to be a military operation. It cuts to a close-up shot of Caleb, and we get a better look at the mask as he fires a shot. You see these eyeballs on there. I'm not sure if that's just for decoration or if those are supposed to do something. It looks like they're just printed that way to be scary or something along those lines. After that, we see Dolores running. There's an explosion or some sort of impact, and we see debris falling from above her. Then we get a shot of Maeve in this cool new black suit making a maneuver. We hear her say, "You've turned a young man before." And we see that she has a drone firing at her. She's running with the katana in her hand. She sort of dives and does a roll, and at least for now, she looks like she's fully capable of evading this thing. What she says, "You've turned a young man before," that sounds to me like she's probably talking to Dolores about Caleb. Turning a young man before brings up thoughts of William when he first came to the park. We only get a little bit more of their conversation, so it's definitely too early to tell, but that's what I'm guessing. And we don't see her companions here. They're off screen, I guess, or they've split up. I said Clementine is probably one of them. Hector was one of these codes. Of course, his pearl got crushed, so he won't be there. And my guess for the other one would have been Armistice, but I was reading an article that Joanna Robinson wrote, and she mentioned that the actress that played Shogun World's version of Armistice, Hanarayo, if I'm saying that right, that actor made an appearance at the season 3 premiere, so she's probably more likely. But either way, we don't see her companions here. Then we get a shot of Bernard looking at a monitor with William's picture on it. In the picture, he's wearing his man in white outfit from the previous episode, and the status on his profile says he's deceased. I'm guessing they're just faking his death here, probably just making it look like he's dead because he'd be harder to track that way. And it doesn't make sense for them to kill him off right here. And there's also the fact that Bernard turns to him and he appears to be standing right there. There could be some editing trickery, but them faking his death makes much more sense given what happened the last episode. I'm guessing that part of this episode is going to involve Bernard and Stubbs breaking the man in white out. Over that, we hear a woman's voice say, "Tell me how you got here." And then we see Maeve talking to Dolores, and she says, "He can't save you now." And then right at the same time, we hear a man's voice say, "How did you get here, Cal?" We watch Dolores struggling to get away from her. To me, it looks like this is right before Maeve catches up to her and starts talking. Dolores' arm is chopped off from above the elbow, and it feels pretty likely that Maeve and her katana are behind this injury. That cuts to another shot of the hooded prisoner as we hear the woman's voice say, "Start at the beginning again." So the trailer makes it feel like we're going to be getting this really long, detailed history of Caleb's life and how he lost his memories and what those memories are and how they affect him. I'm not 100% sure that it'll be as a substantial part of the upcoming episode as this trailer makes it feel like. I mean, we get another shot of him looking through the scope of the rifle, and we see that masked guy getting shot again. And there's a shot of Francis, and we hear Caleb say, "I've been here before." And that's over top of a shot of him holding a rifle and him running away through the brush, this time from behind. And while all of this stuff from his past is interesting, this is also the penultimate episode of the season and maybe the series. So I feel feel like this trailer is making it seem like we're going to spend a lot more time with Caleb's history than we actually are. Either way, in the current timeline, we see him standing in front of a lot of equipment. It's not clear where this is, but I feel like this is tied to the closing shot of the last trailer that we didn't see, and possibly those shots where Serac had a gun to his head. After the shot of him on this platform, we hear Dolores say, "You spent your whole life believing you're a follower. Lead." And we see those two standing there. Dolores is behind him looking at him as the trailer closes. So Dolores seems to be using Caleb for something that she can't do herself. It seems like his status as an outlier is important, and I'm curious as to what's going on with all of that, but there's really not much in this trailer to tell us. I do believe, like I said, that last shot of him is related to things that we saw in the previous trailer. After watching that last trailer, I thought they were flying to Westworld because we had that shot of the mesa and we had that shot of them on horseback. They could also have been headed to Mexico, to where Bernard and the Man in Black are, but the timeline's a little bit confusing. Things in episode 5 and 6 overlapped in the timeline. We see his therapist get the notification about the data dump, so we know how Dolores and Caleb and the Man in Black and Bernard's stories are synced up, and then we also know about Dolores and Maeve, how they're lined up, but I'm not 100% sure when Maeve gets printed. Last we saw them, Caleb and Dolores were flying somewhere. We know at some point Maeve and Dolores are going to have a showdown in the city, and that they will end up in this conversation that we see in this trailer, but I don't know for sure what the sequence of all of it is. I mean, they showed that picture of Dolores and Teddy riding on that ridge right before they showed Dolores and Caleb riding horses in what looked like the park, so they could still be going there, and it could just overlap with the events that we saw happening at the Delos headquarters. One thing that's really standing out to me is that Dolores has had 2 chances to destroy Maeve's pearl, and she didn't do it. Like I said, we got that idea that she had taken into consideration what Serac would do with Maeve when she made her plans, so to me it seems like she's leaving Maeve alive because it's important to her plan, much in the same way she kept Bernard alive. I hope that's the case, and that really sounds like there could be something interesting that comes out of that. But I'm going to end it there, so let me know what you think. What do you think is going to happen in the next episode? How do you think things are playing out? Do you think we're headed to a series finale? Do you think they're going to end it after this? I know they've mentioned having more seasons in mind, but it also feels like we're moving towards a conclusion. I don't know though. Let me know what you think. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm thinking about doing more Westworld videos now that Better Call Saul is going to be wrapping up this week, so make sure you check back for that. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.